gonna sit with this for a minute. I just hit record, and obviously this is just a play. What I was kind of thinking about before we popped on was just how, like, why am I why am I being pushed to do this so, like, strongly? So I'll back up just in case we decide to post this portion. Welcome to the video. Thank you for tuning in. We've set our intention that this be for the highest benevolence for all, in alignment with the highest levels of love light. And I'm just going to roll back into it. I'm not going to give the intro yet, but I'll just keep kind of going where we were talking. And I've been guided to share a lot through Zoom, but specifically in this moment, I'm sharing with you, Kandice, because we've obviously made this crazy connection. And I was like, why am I just being pushed right now so strongly to get the ball rolling right before I popped on the phone with you? And I'm just thinking about how teaching has always been, from my perspective, in many different ways. But I feel like it's just sharing is the new teaching. Like, it isn't about how to do it or it's this way. It's just kind of playing and interacting with one another. And I think that that's the biggest reason that I'm being drawn to share this with everybody else, is because it's, first of all, it's fun for us, which means we're in bliss, right? We're having fun with it. But so I just wanted to share that really quickly. So maybe we'll just take a few breaths here, and I'm just kind of excited to get back in and follow your flow of your timeline in a very awakening journey, because when you shared it with me, I was very amazed at a lot of things. And I know you've got the kiddos, so if you have to run, we can always pause this too.
We might be able to hear them a little bit.
That's okay. So it amazes me how you can stay in flow with them anyways. So I guess the intention for today isn't just connecting with higher self and source and our highest aspect, but I guess to share your journey and whatever you feel kind of in this moment you want to share and kind of play with that. And maybe because it'll not only just be fun and exploratory, but other people that listen down the road might be inspired or feel like they can relate, feel like they're not alone, feel like some of these things might trigger them to go, oh yeah, I remember going through that, like you did for me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we forget, and you've been very clear pretty much the whole time. I'm playing here. This a little bit, might be a little bright. So I'm just going to start with a little intro, and then if you want to go into where you all started with this, would that be cool?
Let's try that.
Okay. So Kandice is saying, well, let's try that, because she and I go into flow, which is like this constant space of continuous stream of activations and downloads and ahas. And we tried this before a couple of times, and it just didn't seem very organic. It was just like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. But I do think it's important to share her timeline, because it's really cool. It's really it's very expansive, and I love hearing it. But part of why we decided to do this too is to share our flow and how we do that with everybody else, but also because we have fun with it. So the way that I met Kandice was she reached out to me through YouTube, and then we connected. And then once I did a session with her and went into her energy field, so to speak, and what she was offering, I was blown away. And I think we both had similar experiences as to how much we had in common. as to where we were both from, not just our backgrounds in this reality and timeline, but many other lifetimes, many other, I'm getting goosebumps, many other parallel realities, working with similar tools and gifts and crystals. So it's been a really cool interaction. And basically we discovered we're soul sisters, sistars, and it's been fun ever since. So I don't know if you want to go from there.
Yeah, it's so interesting joining you in your video because a lot of energy joins you.
Yeah.
You know, when you're going into your stream, like this is another layer of experience for me.
Cool.
Interacting with you this way. So you're probably like, why is she so quiet? I'm just like acclimating this energy. It's a lot more than I'm actually used to experiencing.
So is it similar? Yeah, go ahead.
That you know, to explain that, when someone would be watching your videos and participating in the energy exchange, they might feel a little bit more relaxed, and then very open to receiving the energy and the message, not always able to translate perhaps your toning or whatever. They feel very calm. They feel very assured. So I'm actually feeling that right now in a more exaggerated sense.
More than you usually do, which you usually are so in flow anyways.
Well, it's just a different experience. So it's making me like really calm.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and words are just, yeah, I'm having actually a hard time.
Yeah. So let's play with that a little bit. I appreciate that because I do the same thing. I was sharing with Kandice. We do a lot on Instagram. Kandice kind of introduced me to Instagram a little bit because I wasn't really very familiar with it. And it's funny because she and I will message. So like you and I will message on Instagram and you can write, and I understand where you're going with that because you'll write stuff or we'll message each other back and forth. And we don't even have to be in the same room, obviously. And it's like, ring, light bulbs, sparkles, electricity. Sometimes it is very calming. Sometimes it's very like, okay, we're on the hunt. We're going to go find our rabbit trail, or we're just like bouncing things back and forth. But I share this because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that do that with other people too, or don't realize they can do that with other people. And the energy that I bring to the table is, from my perspective now, it used to be my perspective was it was all my guides and what, you know, all these versions of myself, which is true, our team and your team are connecting. So I think that's part of it too, is it strengthens that field even more. And I feel it too. So now I kind of just say it's my highest aspect, which encompasses all of those things, right? As does yours. And so when you get into that space, sometimes it's just okay just to sit and be with that energy too.
Okay,
it's
I
like,
have more coming through now. I'm like, I think I can speak now.
okay, you've acclimated.
I'm acclimating, but it's just like I'm expanding as well. So as we're going through our day, we're not sitting in this expansive Zen flow so much all the time, where we're bringing in a lot of energy.
Yeah.
The times where we do that is when we're meditating or when we're sleeping.
Yeah.
We don't need our full mental consciousness for that.
Yeah.
So it's actually is something to be able to bring in that energy into your physical body and speak at the same time, because it's very natural when we're experiencing that level of energy to just be quiet and calm with that and just receive that.
Mm-hmm.
So I find when we've tried to do this, I'm like fighting going into like full receiver mode. I like
Right.
want a receiver and anchored it in. Like I want to just be, so it just, yeah.
And it's funny, and we've noticed too. It's like, and it's funny. We're gonna do this at some point. So Candice and I are planning on doing a lot of these interactions and sharing them with you guys, whoever ends up watching this. And we'll have to explore that. Just go into space, see what we're feeling, share what we're hearing, see what comes through, and we'll just play. I'm really excited about that. I mean, I'm excited about all of it. But
it's interesting to notice though when you speak to different people, just listening for babies. Oh, that's Callie.
I'll pause.
Yeah.
You were saying if with different people, we're gonna pause in and out a little bit, and that's okay. Hi, Kelly.
I've noticed with different people, the amplification, you know, there's different amplification. Yeah.
Hi. That was a short nap.
It was.
So I hit record again. We're laughing because it really is. I all of a sudden had trouble talking too. It's like my mouth is like, wah, wah. And so as I closed my eyes, I was just setting my intention. So this is what happens when Candice and I connect in this way with this type of energy and what the guides are sharing. And I'm going to do my best to get rid of that terminology, but I'm just so used to saying it because they are our helpers, but my highest aspect. But what basically I'm hearing is collateral damage. And then Candice, you were going into flow about don't
dames, which is ladies.
Yeah.
But also dames, dimes, and then age and like wattage.
Yeah. So I'm hearing, hey, ladies. So this is like back and forth play. And what happens is it's like what they're showing me is we are linking up, and I am seeing the coil, like an electric coil, like wattage, what you're seeing. And it's like we're amplifying it. And so it gets amplified in our communication, in our connection. And what that does is it's allowing us, it's almost like it's like we're literally stepping it up a notch. Like our entire body almost has to expand in order to hold this frequency that's coming in. And it's like this, it's like, okay, now you're in a different dimension. You're playing in a different layer. And it's like we're threading together these layers and these dimensions when we connect, and we're homing in. We're homing into home base.
And it's those double digits.
Yeah.
That's those, 2 amps and your own power plus another. You're literally doubling your antenna. You're doubling your connection. Because as we connect to each other, it's my power plus another one.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when the first time we were connecting, I was hearing like 2 infinities and beyond.
Yeah.
A lot of information was coming through about 2 universes colliding.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were saying you saw something about a kaleidoscope.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the ability to collide our scopes of view.
Yeah.
And it doubles everything.
Yeah. It comes into amplification and unification. So, I mean, it's a little bit like what Jesus used to talk about when two or more gather.
Mm-hmm.
The same idea, the same concept. And then what happens is we usually play and we'll write a bunch of things down and all these messages come through, and I'm gonna pause.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I hit record again. See, we always pause it and then I'm like, oh, that was delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so say it again, please. The whiteout.
Okay, so I was just talking about, I was talking about when I had a small group over at my house, and I was going to lead us in a meditation, or, you know, just like a gathering.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, got everyone in a circle, closed my eyes, and was intending on saying some nice words, but the energy that joined us, that wanted to come through, was so powerful. And I had the natural inclination to just go very deep within. And then as I was speaking and doing that, I just saw white, and I had a whiteout. And I was just in a complete white. And I'm not sure what I was saying.
I was gonna ask, yeah.
It was good.
So you did like a trance channeling.
Yeah, and that was one of my first experiences doing that. I did have some other spontaneous moments where that just happened, and it does feel like a bit of an urge, which is a natural thing. Like, I'm gonna compare this to labor, so bizarre, but right? It's like, once you know, people are like, how do you know when it's time to push? You know, your body takes over, and you have that natural inclination to switch over into letting your body just do its thing. So that also happened to me at a concert we went to recently, where we were in a large crowd of people and everyone was really high energy, and I had the urge to speak light language and move my hands in symbols.
Right.
Of course, again, I was going against that instinct because I don't know how well received I would have been. Rockers, because we were at a rock concert.
Yeah. Oh, I've had that urge too. And at first, when I first started doing this type of, started realizing I've never had a whiteout, well, that I remember, not like in that way.
Yeah.
There's been times when I've kind of gone someplace else a little bit, but for myself, I've always been aware that I'm in my body and I'm aware of what I'm saying. Although sometimes, you know, that the only thing, like right before I drift off to sleep, sometimes that energy can be very strong. And I've told you before, I literally will wake up doing light language and speaking it even in bed. So maybe that's something very similar to where it's just like, it's almost like, and then when I first started speaking light language, I would be walking the neighborhood. I still do it. I walk the neighborhood and just talk to myself all the time in light language.
It's really, I think, an important step for us to be okay with just our natural being. And a long time ago, I think I was in my 20s, I read one of Eckhart Tolle's books, and it was my first real introduction to reading about the ego self.
Yeah.
I can't remember all of it, but I remember him talking about the mental chatter, and how, what's the difference between somebody who's like out insane, sitting and walking around talking to themselves, versus us talking to ourselves within our heads and not letting it out. And that was really interesting, reading that. And what was it about that I found interesting? Because there's different aspects of information and sounds and flow through our minds. There's that chatter that is unhealthy, that is almost, it's a different type of chatter, if you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
So it's recognizing which voice is speaking.
Yes.
And that in itself could sound crazy to someone who doesn't understand, but it's like, where is your inspiration coming from?
Yeah.
And I'm also hearing at the same time as I say inspiration, it's like the inner spring. And I think, you know, people who sing are channeling that inner spring.
Yeah. It's like welling up from them. It's from the source. It's from the source. Yeah. And I see it when you say that, I see rivers. So there's all these channels, there's all these rivers, and it's like, which one are we pulling from? And I'm just going to keep recording. Guys, anybody who's watching this video, we do this all the time. This is like very normal, just to walk around with the video. Kandice is in a constant state of flow, it seems like, which I admire. But the light language and all that, and that's something I think too, I know exactly, it's either the power of now or a new earth. For me, it's funny that you say that that was the first time, because Eckhart Tolle was my first aha about that. And I think he uses that example of somebody talking to themselves while they're on a train or something. And it's almost like when you're walking around the house and you're like, I have to do the laundry. I need to do this. Well, what did that person, and you're saying it out loud. The other voice is behind all of that, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, this is a really interesting conversation and interesting perspectives, this thing. Like, there's lots to ponder on. Who is speaking?
Right.
Who is speaking and what is being said. And I think in the book he was talking about, you know, your egoic personality, and some people are almost possessed by it. They're not really, they think that that's perhaps the only voice, or that, yeah, that's their identity.
Sure.
And this is like, I'm trying to tap into like, why, what's the point of this?
Well, when you were talking about the concert, what I was thinking about is the inspiration. It's like when you're when you're with all of this energy, it's almost like there's a higher energy. You're feeling all of this, and it wants to flow through you and come out in sound and
in a pure way.
Yeah.
Not to say that something is unpure, but it just literally springs up and you want to move your hands in a certain way. And it would be like dancing, you know, like that. And activation flow, like she does light language dancing.
Yes.
So it's like, as you're becoming that pure conduit or conductor of energy, you want to move your body in a certain way and you want to make certain sounds. And that in itself is like activating that into your physical body. So you're downloading that as a pure conduit patterns into your physical body. So you become like a living cymatic resonant plate. It's like as the vibrations are moving through, you're patternizing in a very harmonic way, which sets you into, I'm sure that if we got Dan Winter's equipment hooked up to us at that time, the heart coherence would be off the charts.
Yeah.
You would be, you know, your cymatics, you're raising your frequency and you're patternizing with it.
Yeah.
So that is it's coming from a very high vibrational place versus being taken on a ride from maybe a habitual mind chatter pattern that has been unchecked or
Yeah.
adopted from what you've seen or heard from your parents. So I think my point in saying this is like, we need to allow ourselves to do that.
Yeah.
Judgment, like that unbridled, just allowing ourselves the space to patternize as we're receiving those high vibrations.
Yeah.
Without a care. And I think compared to someone who's just kind of walking around rambling, there's also something pure and innocent about that, because that being has no idea about that. That's just their experience, right? We're looking at them perhaps, walking and rambling, and we might be like, okay, and maybe something will change and we won't have those thoughts. And why would I think that somebody is anything for doing that? Those are all programs, right?
Sure.
We don't see birds chirping and judge them. Why are they singing?
Yeah. I don't know if that sounds right.
That bird is out of pitch.
Yeah. I think what happens too is we're so used, it's funny that you bring up the word habit. So I knew this was going to be the case. We're just going into flow. This is just how it naturally, this is how it works. I wrote down the word habit earlier, and I looked up the word habit, and this is what's so funny. I actually typed it up. I did a video, I posted it, but it was just like a quick little 12-minute. And I left, before I popped on with you, I left it up on my screen because I was going to close everything out. And I was like, nope, leave that open. And this is a perfect example of synchronicity and the words that we play with. And it's funny because the word is, if I look it up, it's condition, demeanor, appearance, dress, and originally past participant, to have, hold, or possess. And then possession, right? Where, find oneself, be situated, consider, think, reason, have in mind, manage, keep. I mean, that's a lot of stuff for one word.
For one word, yeah.
And then I looked up, because what had come through was, so it's that in itself could take us in a complete flow, because when you're talking to yourself out of habit, which I've done it, I do it. If someone's constantly doing it, again, it goes back to that river and that stream. Who's doing it? And it's almost like they're possessed. And in that moment, maybe they're possessed by their ego, let's say. Not that the ego is a bad thing, but that's where their stream is coming from. And we're not talking like possession in the sense of that's what they're holding, what's holding on to them. Right,
that's there. The program that's running.
Correct. Yeah. And then the other thing that came through was habitat, right? And clothing. So all of this, it's like that this message keeps coming through. And so oftentimes, back to what you were talking about, when you were inspired to be in that, when you're in that energy, we're in the habit of like, okay, I can't move right now because people are going to think I'm crazy. Like, sometimes you just want to get up and dance,
And children in their natural state of being, they have that. They're born with that.
Yeah.
And it's a program to do as you're told. And it, it's hard. Like, as a mom, I'm like, okay, I know that you have a program that you're going to be adhering to in school.
Right.
So you have to get with the program.
Yeah.
So it can be challenging to allow that, to nurture that part, but then also have them adhering to a social confirmation.
Yeah.
So
balance.
Definitely balance. And we're figuring that out as grown-ups.
Yeah.
We are creating new habitats
Yeah.
and new habits. And that's, I think, what is so important about our collaborations. Is we're collaborating and we're all giving each other permission to cohabitate in this way, and
Yeah.
to be like, you know, the more of us that are just allowing these spontaneous, authentic springs to come forth and patternize,
Yeah.
we're creating a collective, and that is empowering and freeing and harmonizing and massively amplifying. And it's not so much about I don't know how to say this. It's just the focus is on allowing that spring, the upwelling, allowing that.
Yeah, it's not forcing it into some container. Like I saw an aqueduct when you said that, like an aquifer, and I think of how many problems that causes. Like I think of they have a lot of issues in Florida with Lake Okeechobee because they've rerouted the water supply, and now they have all these issues. And what I think has happened, and this happens in a lot of places, these places flood because the river it's not meant to necessarily just flow in one direction. And I see these people, what I just had a picture pop into my head of like a person, and all of a sudden like a hole pokes in their skin and like some stream of water comes, and then like, oop, I gotta close that hole. And then another one, oop, now I can't. And you're running out of hands because all of this energy and all of this information and everything that's this upwelling is trying to get out. And really it's like, maybe bring it in through the heart and then let that whoosh, open. And it's still not, it's still going to go where it needs to go and do what it needs to do. And I just had that picture pop into my head.
That's a really beautiful thing to say. Anchoring it in through the heart. And then obviously, I think we've all heard, grounding it in to the heart of the earth.
Yeah. And the body.
It's like what I was experiencing at the beginning of the video. There's like all this energy coming in and I'm like, okay, I have to speak. And my body's like, no. my being is like, my natural instinct is to breathe and just expand into it. And so
I think that's a good example too with all of these energies, you felt over the past week. Like, I think maybe talking about that a little bit is interesting, because I think oftentimes, don't you feel like when these huge energy shifts come in, it's like you feel like you have to do something with it. And you don't, although sometimes it requires movement. Sometimes I have to go move.
Yeah.
Or write. Or not do anything.
Trying a few different things to get into what that sweet spot of receiving, and that sweet spot of acclimating. Yeah. How can I acclimate to this vibration of today?
Yeah.
And what I have felt in the last few months is that it seemed to be ramping up to the point where we were having an energy fluctuation change every 2 weeks or every month, every 2 weeks, but it's now on the daily. I'm not sure if that's your experience, but it's on the daily now. So I'm just like, the weather forecast for the energy is out the window. The fluxes it's that fire hose that you're trying to hold on to, and you're like, what pressure's the fire hose today? It's like,
yeah. It's and then sometimes what?
When you grab onto the fire hose.
And then it's like this.
Right. Aim it from the bullseye. You got this. Like, excuse me?
Yeah. And it's funny too, because I feel the same way. Like for a long time, I'd be like, yeah, we're getting an influx. You know, here's what we're doing with the energy. Here's what it feels like. Because sometimes it feels very, I used to go, okay, we're getting it from the sun, and so it feels this way. If it's from the earth, it feels this way. Now it's like sun, earth, sun, earth, sun, earth. But more than that, it's not just, for me, it doesn't even matter anymore where it's coming from. Like for a while, I was like, is it Arcturus? Oh, okay. Then the following week, because all the messages and downloads I was getting was Arcturus, please. Like every day it was something different because we're getting so much help. But beyond all of that, it isn't about all of that. It's the fire hose. It's about us anchoring, living in the best way that we know how. And if we don't know how, feel into it as to what would feel good in this moment to open up to those energies and anchor. So sometimes if we're having a day, we might just say, I'm sorry, I just need to take 5 minutes.
And take it.
Right. And it isn't like it's it's daily, and it's in shifts throughout the day.
That's right. And sometimes when the energy I feel comes in, so and it's like particle bombardment or energy bombardment, it just feels like, and the cymatic resonance plate terminology wants to come up a lot right now.
Yeah.
It's just like we're transforming, and we're going into more harmonic patterns so quickly. And an example of me at the concert, like fighting it. It's like as I was in that high energy, I wanted to just literally like turn into a snowflake. Like I was just, like, oh my goodness, the energy in here.
That visual just cracked me up. Poof, and there she goes, floating away. Oh man.
Yeah. So, and it got uncomfortable for me to kind of fight against my, the desire to harness the energy in the way that my body wanted to.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the accepted way of patternizing is to bang your head. At a rock concert, that's how we're gonna move the energy. We're gonna bang our head.
Yeah.
Good way. But like, what if I would have just rolled out my hand light language mudras? Respond to the energy. I'm gonna start speaking light language and chanting now.
Yeah, why not? Just go for it. But I get it. I do sometimes. I actually will sneak into, if I'm in a place and I just feel this overwhelming urge, whether it's because of the energies that are coming in that I just tapped into, or because I'm in the presence of someone else who has activated that within me, or because I'm in a place. I do it. If my husband and I go for a bike ride in particular places, I want to do light language and hand movements while I'm bike riding. And it's funny, I'll let him be in front of me and he'll look back and I'll go, don't mind me. And I'll just be like, one hand on the bike or no hands on the bike if we're, in a safe area. And I'll just start. And he's just gotten to the point where he just ignores me.
Wow, I think that's amazing. That's so beautiful that you've given yourself that permission to just be.
Only when he and I are together. If I'm in the grocery store, I don't quite bolt it out.
But it's just like, when I say that, who's saying that when I'm like, wow, you've really given your permission. It's like, who's given who permission? Right?
Right.
Like, the identity is like, okay, fine, I'll let you do that. We still look cool.
Yeah.
Like, we're still acceptable.
Yeah.
It's just all these layers of self, and coming from, where are you coming from?
Yeah. And it is, I like what, well, there were two things I wanted to just mention. Who's the gentleman on Instagram that does all of the somatic artwork and shows a lot of it? Is it Ben something? I'll have to find his link and share it on the comments. Because not everybody that watches down the road will know what that is. And I just want to back up when you were talking about the snowflake. And then I want to get back into the whole flow thing about who is that? Because I keep seeing the scene from I get goofier and goofier the more flow we get into. It's so much fun. Zoolander, who am I? And then I see that one scene, the essence of water. Essence is what is it? Water is the essence of moisture or something. Like, how can you separate? Like, that kind of all comes into that. Let me know if I need to pause. But I think of Masaru Emoto. That's what I wanted to share. And the water experiment. And it's the same thing, all the somatic. So you can throw like sand on a speaker and play a harmonic. And every time you shift it, it changes the shape, just like a snowflake. So I just wanted to clarify that. Because
and the patterns got more sophisticated. I think the higher the hertz, or something like that. The patterns just get more and more sophisticated as the vibration raises.
Right. Well, it's kind of like the platonic solids. Those are the basic building blocks. But then when you morph them all together and add these other components, they combine and then they make shapes and they shift like sacred geometry. You know.
So imagine if that sand was like, no, I'm not gonna, like, you know, they're resisting.
Yeah. How would they look?
That would kind of be how I felt when, you know, fighting against or whatever. It's like, oh,
yeah,
I don't want to patternize in that harmonic way.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens when we don't allow ourselves the freedom to just be like a noodle and have that.
Yeah.
I think because we're like a big human body, or like a dense human body.
Yeah.
To some degree, we can have control over that. We can contract, or we can expand.
Yeah, turtle. So I was walking today. So a couple things. One of the things I used to do when I had these urges was, as I taught Pilates, it's not like I could just say, okay, let's just do this, you know, because they then follow what you're doing. I'm like, no, I just had to get that out. I just had to do some mudras. Although in yoga, I was able to do that, which I think was important. But I would go in the bathroom and close the door and just be like, blurt out this light language and be like, okay, I feel better, and go back out. And I think that'll eventually will change as far as, you know, of course, who will be able to just say what we want to say. But it is that right now we're shedding those old layers, and, you know, but there is a point where you don't necessarily want to play. Oh. Okay, so we're back. Yeah, so cymatics and Dr. Masaru Emoto, and there's so much we could go into. We talked a lot about the I think the biggest thing so you and I have so much fun in all of these streams, and we can go down the rabbit hole. We just off camera picked apart the word collaboration and took it into 10 different meanings. And I feel like really what the biggest thing though is to find balance right now, anchor the frequencies that are coming through, connect, recognize if the ego is doing all of the leading, and get into alignment and work together. It's not about one or the other. It's about working together in your body and working together in your environment, and not stifling the energies, yet not poofing into a snowflake and floating away either.
Yeah.
Because, and that can be, and that's what I think this is all about. And I do feel like that this is part of what, when we do this together, when we share in this, when we feel guided to connect with other people in this way, we're essentially bringing to the table, we're combining our efforts, we're combining our energies, which in turn is bursting us into snowflakes. And we're then able to be around people who aren't bursting into, they're a different shape of snowflake, and maybe aren't able to hold that coherence, right, for as long, or have it go as far. And I know that our spouses are different sometimes than we are, and I think a lot of people, when they first start to feel these energies, they want to just go for it full throttle, 100%. But realistically, we do have spouses or partners sometimes. We have family, like children, especially teenagers, that may not be in that reference. I've thought about that a little bit. Or maybe they are, and we're not. And also work. It's not like I'm going to work and I'm just going to start speaking light language to my client who is here to do yoga, or even if it doesn't matter. My point is that we're utilizing our own energies and interaction to help facilitate that desire to expand. And that then trickles through that stream out in our everyday actions and in words. And it helps us to hold the frequency without feeling like we have to constrict it.
Boa constrictor.
Yeah. Yeah. We were just in flow a minute ago about boa snakes and boa constrictors and incisor teeth, and which we'll find out where that leads us down the road. Lots of things going on in the spine and Kundalini, I have noticed a lot. And that can lead to that expansive, needing to just rage in, not like rage against the machine. Head
Wow.
bang.
Oh, wow. That's actually really synchronistic phrase at the moment. Rage against the machine, and like the conformity, wanting to conform us into a certain way, consumerism.
Yeah.
More mechanical, more automated, more robotic, more predictable, so that we can be merchandised and all that stuff. And we're creating our collaborations and our playing fields so that we can still progress and evolve and expand and express. And then we go back in, and then we can, we're creating our rings or our arenas.
Our rings of, and I always see like the Olympics, the Olympic rings. It's like gathering all of this together in this arena, and we're all using our own talents, our own gifts, interacting with one another, even though it's one competition isn't the right word, but that's what they would call the Olympics. But really it's a display of power, but that's the old way. Now we're displaying and we're sharing, and we're like, hey, this is what I do, let's play. And this is against the whole idea of this is how it should be done, and this is what you should look like when you're doing it. And that's what the Olympics are all about, is everybody from all over the world bringing their rings of, running with that fire. But of course, that's a very physical gladiator way of representing it. And I don't want to take it that direction, but I'm seeing it as a metaphor for us all. Literally, it's like the flower of life, you know, how it's those rings and a ring and a ring.
The word mastery is coming through.
Oh yeah.
It's allowing each other to step into our mastery together, and then we're facilitating more expansion into our mastery. So we're displaying those skills with each other, and we're on the same level in that sense, in that we have that passion, and we have that inborn desire to express in that way.
Yeah.
So we're creating an Olympic field for us all to like rise up to that level together.
Yeah. And show others that we can play together and have fun, and that we all have, it's not like this is it's here now. It isn't someplace else. And by us all gathering together and basically expressing our snowflake patterns of harmonious interaction, it is, I don't even want to just say motivating everyone. It's inspirational. It's inspirational. It is inspiring. And then it does break down that old machine. Like, I see this machine going like, whoa, 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 like it doesn't work anymore because we're not greasing it. We're not oiling it. We're not placing value in this old system where not only one person was better than another person, because it's not that anymore. It's like we're all just playing together and enjoying it. It isn't about who gets there first, who gets to hold the torch. We're all holding the torch. I went off on that rings tangent, but then coming back to it, it's also, I see tree rings and rings of harmony and sound, and the tree rings is all about timelines, and that tree holds all of those inside of it.
And the forest of trees. So it's not just one tree. It's like we need all the ones holding the rings, holding the frequencies to create that forest. And the forest is everything to life. It's the home to all the creatures. It is the entire ecosystem. So we require our community. We require that collaboration. And the concert that I went to, it's so funny that I keep going back to that, but it wouldn't have been a concert without every single person watching and participating with their energy.
Yeah.
You know, because that performer could just be up there singing with no one in there. And then it's energy. It's not that collaboration. We need all of the moving parts.
Yeah, it is. And it is, we are the machine now. It's like that idea of like the forest is a really good, and I always think of the fungal network and the mushrooms. But aside from all that, the forest, it's like we're biological components. It's not all about iron. We are iron. We are all of those things. It's not like something outside of us that we're now saying yes. Again, we're so I'm hearing all these words like race against the machine, rage against the machine, racing away from the machine. I'm hearing machination. See, these words come through. It's better if I write them down, but machination. Not just imagination, but
I don't know what the band's called. The words are I'm not Synthetica.
I'm what?
I'm not Synthetica.
Okay, right. That's perfect. It's like the technology too. It's not only us, but as we do this, we become coherent. The other word that was coming, it's so sidebar on these bands is well, you look that up. This is what we do. This is just fun. I'm going to pause. So you found, where did you start looking this word up?
So this is the song called Synthetica by Metric.
Okay.
And it says, some of us are wild ones, ever underwanted, I believe, lining up in the background, waiting for the crowd shot to be seen. In the shadow of the big screen, everybody begs to be redeemed. Hey, I'm not Synthetica. I'll keep the life that I've got. We were never meant to crawl in for the bait. We never will. I can think for myself. I've got something no pill could ever kill. Hey, I'm not Synthetica.
Yeah, I like that. That's obviously so relevant. Yeah, so it's so relevant, and it isn't, and I think this kind of ties in with a lot of the conversations we've been hearing about AI and all of that, which I don't even want to go there today necessarily. That's going to be another video entirely. But I do think that I just keep seeing this reference again, and there's so many just from this short conversation, not so short, but it's 4:44 right now, by the way.
Yeah, it's 144 for me.
Yeah, it's we could take this into so many parallels and metaphors and rabbit holes, and I wanted to just bring that up because that's kind of what this is all about for our interaction. You know, if I'm interacting in another framework, it might be a little different. So in another framework, you know, it would be more physical, or another framework, it would be more go into the void and just go into meditation. But this is creating, and I've brought this up, but it's almost like what we're doing is we're pulling together, Deadpool. I'm seeing all these band references. Tool. We're utilizing this as a tool, and tool's huge, by the way, on the whole, as you know, awakened, awakening, woke, whatever. But essentially, it doesn't matter what we're representing. If we're at the Olympics and we're representing gymnastics or the runners on the track, it's still part of this. It's still working together to bring in the Olympics, you know? It's still bringing these connections that we're all playing in this playing field. In addition to that, it doesn't matter if it's heavy metal or if it's classical music, although, of course, musically, I want to just touch on that briefly. The classical has been shown to be more coherent, but if they're on those patterns on like Dr. Masoto and the water experiment, but I have a feeling that he was pulling from some maybe metal that didn't have coherence in it because there's certainly a lot that does.
Yeah.
And I never found Slipknot, but I'm fairly sure there's something about it in physics. And I'll get to that at another time. If I just look at Slipknot, it talks it's easily undone by pulling the tail, the working end. It's related to the running knot, which will release when the standing end is pulled. So we could probably go into that. But if I go down to the bottom, ironically, it shows a knot. It looks like the, what is that Irish symbol that you've drawn before? Is it the triquetra? It's not the one that you drew, but the one, it's that triquetra or that's what it looks like at the bottom, the slip knot. So now I see where that word was coming through. It's like that pattern, and it's interesting. I'm going to look this up. 1, 2, 3. So if you go on, anyways, it doesn't matter, but I just see this all as very symbolic. And now you and I can get off this call together, and you'll go write some things down, and I'll write some things down, and they'll be in this flow and this interaction with the conversations that we've been having that literally are connecting these concepts. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've kind of gone really easy today.
Yeah.
in this
And the word interpretation is like buzzing in my field right now.
Yeah.
And that interpretation, like as we're in that heart coherence and like we're like intending to receive and to interpret, it allows that expansive in, like the interpretation is coming from within us.
Mm-hmm.
And it just branches into all of these different words and concepts and directions and ties in all sorts of things for us to play with. That keeps us very expansive, and it's very free and free flowing. But then depending on what our intention is, whether it's to find out what's happening with the energies, or you know, we can direct it into certain streams. But then sometimes it will divert into another stream, but then it comes back around, kind of like that symbol that you're talking about. I can't draw it right now, but
you've got it.
It's connected.
It's three, it's a little bit like the seed of life, or the and I also hear interpretation.
Yes, exactly.
Entry portion, and the tree branches and roots going out, and entry portal.
Yes.
So it's so funny how this all comes in. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it brings it back into alignment for me of why I was seeing all that. It's like we're playing together, we're creating this frequency, we're allowing this coherence, we're hearing one another, we're feeling one another, and we're allowing ourselves to interact, right, with
and intertwine.
In what?
Intertwine and intertrain, which is also again Olympics, right? We're training with each other. We're warming up and we're training.
And we're holding the torch. And we're lighting the way for being those masters that you were talking about earlier too, and that's a flow we've had before. We are mastering these this intertwining, this well, I'm hearing entertaining, but it's like that's the fun of it. It's like
in transition, in transitory phase that we're all experiencing, which goes back into convergence, which goes back into the layers of reality that we participate in.
And it's a reminder too, I keep drawing back to the Olympic stadium. It isn't, when we're done with that, it gets taken apart and put back together. And it's not just us in the stadium that's watching, that's interacting, that's intertwining. It's quantum. And we're embodying that quantumness. And I keep seeing the 444 again pop into my head, actually.
And I'm getting participants, and also past participants, but like participating is what's being, really impressed.
Well, also too, if we're quantum and we're in this quantum entanglement, right? And it's past, present, future. It's all of the Olympics that are now in a bigger, like coming into play with these other versions.
That's right.
Got goosebumps everywhere. And I think that's part of this too, is it's like, and a lot of the messages coming through is this, a lot of old information will be coming to the surface. A lot of new information is coming in that is actually not necessarily new, but this is maybe another video too. I think we should probably end on this note. I know. Truly, we could, but I think this was a really good start. I mean, I feel like it's funny how we started at the beginning trying to set again some regimen. It just never works. Hello. I was expecting a growl.
Yeah, I know, right?
So we'll end on this note. I'm gonna sign off, and then I will share what we're gonna do is, I think we're still gonna do a timeline. So I'm just gonna say this. What I'd like to do when we connect next time, and I'm sharing this with anybody who's watching this, we're gonna be doing, I'll be doing a timeline with Kandice, because her story is really incredible. Not only as you can see how she can stay in flow with, she's got 4 kids running around, and just, we're always in flow back and forth, but just the timeline of all the events that have kind of happened in her life. And we'll do that maybe next time if that's what works. And if not, we'll just flow some more and maybe pick a subject and see where it goes from there. And as you guys can see, it's not one subject, it's multidimensional. And it could go on and on and on, because that's how it works. It's those 2 infinity signs braiding and coming together, and I hear setting a spin. So anyways, I'm going to end this, and I'll tell everybody else. Don't hang up quite yet, Kandice, but in love and light, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this energy with us, and this creative co-creation experience collaboration. So I'm going to sign off for now. And I'll share her, I'm going to share Kandice's Instagram and all that too, in case you guys want to check out her free flow.